If you agree to move out to LA, and you call me after you've moved out, I'll get you the interview. Thomas Laffont told this story about breaking into Hollywood, and it's a blueprint for how he later invested. Welcome to AI Digest. There's a Ralph Lauren day you won't forget, and a specific reason his Apple model was treated like a museum piece. Laffont was born in Paris, then bounced between France and the US because his father's job moved the family around. He remembers France as a kid feeling like a country stuck in neutral. Then New York hits, and it's the opposite feeling. Buildings going up, an economy with motion, life happening in real time. He went to Yale for computer science, and he has this brutal, clarifying moment. Junior year, he says, he realized what a good programmer looked like, and that he wasn't one of them. What took someone else an hour took him 6 days. Not, I'm bad so I quit, but I finally understand what excellence is. So he looks for a different arena where obsession can win. Movies were his obsession. Late 90s Hollywood looked like the center of gravity. He didn't know anyone in the business, so the CAA training program sounded like a way to get trained from zero. The way he got in is the part you steal. In his senior year at Yale, he finds one Yale alum agent at CAA, Sally Wilcox, and calls her every day for 6 months, always at the same time. Not random, just checking in calls. The logic is simple. A random call is easy to ignore. A daily call at 3 p.m. becomes a pattern your brain can't unsee. When she finally calls back, she asks, "What's it going to take for you to stop calling me?" He says, "I want an interview." Her answer is a filter disguised as a favor. Move to LA first, then call me. Then you get the interview. So he moves, one egg in the basket. And it works. By July 7th, 1997, he's in the CAA mailroom. People joke about the mailroom, but he describes it as a room packed with talented young people, dressed perfectly, all trying to climb. You copy scripts, deliver scripts, do whatever the machine needs. Then comes the story that sounds fake, except the details are too specific. CAA did work for Ralph Lauren. During the Friends era, Ralph has a cameo to shoot, a tiny elevator scene. Laffont gets asked to pick him up at the Beverly Hills Hotel and escort him. They arrive on set at 9. The scene takes minutes. At 9:08, they're basically done, and Ralph says his next meeting isn't until 4, so why don't they spend time together? And he wants to go where Laffont shops. It turns into a day of walking stores like Fred Siegel on Melrose, with Ralph talking to salespeople, asking why people buy this style and not that one. At the end of the day, Ralph asks what's been bothering him. "Why aren't you wearing Ralph Lauren?" Laffont tells him the cut isn't great. The Beverly Drive store feels old, too much wood. Ralph just goes, "Man, you're so right," and tells him to go to the store and get anything he wants. He goes the next week, awkwardly tells the salesperson Ralph sent him, and she says, "Oh, we've been waiting for you." That's Hollywood, but it's also a lesson about curiosity as a competitive advantage. Working with actors rewires how you think about competition. People underestimate how hard it is, he says, because you're constantly unemployed. Every 6 or 7 weeks, you're back hunting, and the interview is you in a room with 10 people who look exactly like you. And the feedback isn't on the business, it's on you. Too tall, too short, the way you talk, the way you look. He tells a story about representing Jordana Brewster and seeing a casting sheet that literally asked for a Jordana Brewster-like actress. He calls and says, "What about Jordana Brewster?" The answer is, No, we just want someone like her." That level of arbitrary rejection forces hustle and emotional management. An agent has to translate reality into something the person can use, without crushing them. It's a surprisingly good preview of markets. You can do the work, have conviction, and still lose the role for reasons that have nothing to do with your spreadsheet. Getting out of the mailroom is its own mini-game. After retreats, he writes down thoughts and hand-delivers a letter to the managing partner. Then, nothing happens for a long time. When a desk opens for Brian Lord, who was co-chairman and is now CEO, Lord asks to interview the kid from the memo, even though he wasn't in the top 5 who usually got interviews. The interview itself is weird. They talk for 30 minutes about John Steinbeck, Laffont's favorite writer. No business questions. He walks back downstairs thinking he blew it, and gets the job. He works with Lord for almost 3 years during a turbulent time. That's the pattern. You show unusual initiative, you reveal how you think, and the opportunity shows up sideways. While Hollywood wasn't thinking much about startup investing back then, Laffont was. He'd been trading public stocks on the side, buying companies he liked as a hobby. Once he got promoted to agent, he had 2 realizations. 1, he preferred being an assistant to being an agent. 2, he really liked this stock thing. Someone told him a line that stuck. Always invest in someone's hobbies, because that's what they choose to do with their spare time. His brother Philippe calls a couple years into Coatue and says, "We're trading together anyway. Why don't you come do this full-time?" Laffont starts in 2003, coming off the dot-com crash years. They need a semiconductor analyst and can't find one. Philippe drops a printed universe of semis on his desk and basically says, "Fine, you do it." No formal analyst training, sitting in a bullpen next to Morgan Stanley and Goldman people, and he feels behind. Then he flips it. The downside is you don't know anything. The upside is you don't have bad habits. That's where the model becomes religion. Because he didn't trust himself with someone else's work, he built every model himself, every cell. It wasn't performative, it was a safety rail. If you build it, you understand it. Then something interesting happens. As he rebuilds sell-side models, he starts deleting what feels irrelevant and renaming things to match the thesis, not the company's reporting structure. He doesn't want a 1,000-line model that forces you to jump between tabs to explain the point. He wants a narrative that flows from top line to bottom line, with the key drivers obvious. And he ties that idea back to Hollywood. All the CAA trainees once met Steven Spielberg, who said, "Every great story can be pitched in 3 sentences." Laffont's point is that simplification is not dumbing down. It's proof you actually understand. That approach shaped some iconic work. Starting in semis in that era, he says, all roads led to one company, Apple. Their Apple model became so sacred, he wouldn't let anyone edit a cell. The funny part is what they got wrong. Units were pretty solid. Pricing assumptions were not. They expected iPhone price to decline 5 to 10% a year, like other consumer electronics. Instead, ARPU doubled. And that's where the private markets start tugging, because the biggest stories stop showing up on public screens. For a long time, tech investing in public markets felt like the center of the universe. Companies went public early enough that you could do differentiated work when they were a couple billion in market cap. Then the early 2010s hit, and companies like Facebook and Alibaba stay private longer, at a scale that matters to your research. He gives a specific example from the public side. Coatue owned Google, and after the financial crisis it traded sideways partly because investors feared Facebook would replicate a private internet Google couldn't search. But they couldn't talk to Facebook, because it was private. Once Facebook went public, ironically, Google stock started working. The fear narrative changed when Facebook didn't come out saying, "We're going to kill Google." Both stocks ended up working. That was an eye-opener. Information access matters, and private markets were now where the missing pieces lived. Their first private deals were later stage, with a rule of thumb like 100 million plus in revenue, names like Evernote and Box. But the most successful deal, he says, broke the rules. Snapchat. They led the Series C at about $1.5 billion valuation. Their differentiator at first was bringing public market-style research into a private founder conversation. He remembers reverse pitching Aaron Levy at Box with a big deck. Then everyone caught up, which is how it always goes. Today, data science is a much bigger part of Coatue. He says they have something like 20 to 30 people processing data, including alternative feeds like App Store data, clickstream, and credit card data. Some of it even gets shared with portfolio companies. That kind of work helped them be early customers of Databricks and Snowflake, which helped lead to investing. He describes looking at OpenAI as probably the most important company in the world today, because it drives AI consumption and spending. And he checks charts almost every day on ChatGPT users, download share, and how it's holding up versus competitors. On AI as an investing category, his first reaction isn't fear, it's familiarity. Infrastructure is semiconductor-driven, and that's home territory. It helped them believe in Cerebras early, and it made NVIDIA's data center momentum a telltale sign that something big was happening. But once you get past infrastructure, the environment gets weird. He says you can talk yourself into a bull case and a bear case for almost any name in tech right now. 2 years from now, what if a model can build you a Workday right off the bat? Does that make Workday's data more valuable, or does it wipe them out? You can hear the stakes in the way he describes boards right now. No one is head in the sand. Companies are tracking token consumption, token-based revenue, token-based COGS, even spend per developer on tools like Cursor, OpenAI, and Anthropic. Whitebox a totally new product, or defend the data moat and don't let customers build directly on it. It's Darwinian, he says. And the winners won't just be the companies with accelerating top lines. It'll be the ones whose CEOs can communicate a coherent vision through both the bull and bear cases AI creates. The thread through all of this is conviction with accountability. In hiring, he likes case studies on public names with a real bull case and bear case. Then he argues the opposite of whatever the candidate picks, just to test thinking. It's not about being right. It's about whether you can lay out a clear model and a clear story. With LPs, he's blunt that the customer is the investor. He keeps almost everything he owns in Coatue funds, and he thinks people learn more about you and how you handle bad decisions than good ones. When he called a major investor about doing Snapchat off-brand, the response was basically, "Then do it. That's why we're investing in you." And zooming out, he lands somewhere surprisingly civic-minded. People want access to the value creation in companies like OpenAI and Anthropic, and he argues the cost of not having broad participation is incredibly high, especially if a generation feels economically unlevered to the technologies that also threaten their jobs. Maybe that's the real Spielberg test here. If you can pitch the AI era in 3 sentences, one of them probably has to be about who gets to own the upside. For the full conversation, find Thomas Laffont's interview on TBPN. Then ask yourself, where in your work are you still letting the world's reporting format dictate your model, instead of forcing your model to reflect what you actually believe?